Access the Stewarding Cockpit via the side menu or landing page. All other features displayed here are in our Introduction Knowledge Base article and video tutorial. For the purposes of this video, I will be the executive chef at this property, and as a department head, I do the following. Check the current month, September. I review the figures from yesterday, and that I can do by hovering over the bar over here, and I get a breakdown of exactly what is in the system. And on the right hand side, I can click on the specific day and see the hours imported from the timekeeping system. And if I'm happy with that, I save it. Dates that are written in the color purple means a national holiday. This is country specific and does not include Christmas Day and New Year's Day. The weather feature is activated. This is especially useful for properties with outdoor restaurants, bars, pubs, a swimming pool, and even properties which is near the airport. It displays the weather up to 10 days in advance. Two view options in the cockpit, productivity and hours. Here is a breakdown of the daily hours from the actual schedule that is imported into PMI. Various indicators on this chart, total F&B revenue, smart forecast, productive hours, and so on. Click a legend to activate it on the graph. Everything to the left of the black dotted vertical line are the historical hours and what the smart forecast was. To the right, the hours in the current schedule. Here I can check if yesterday's figures are correct. If there is good alignment, great. However, let's deep dive into the figures. Here I can see that there was no training or sick leave. We used just over 13 hours and we should have only used 2.5 hours as it's Sunday and we only cover the breakfast period because the restaurant usually closes after breakfast. However, Saturday afternoon, we received a last-minute request. A family of 15 needed a venue and a 3-course menu for a baby christening. The original venue that they had actually booked realized that there was a double booking, so of course we thanked them kindly. Also later that same evening, we had a flight cancellation of 40 persons that had dinner with us in the restaurant, so of course we needed to clean up after dinner service. So that explains the spike here in labor hours for the day. So what can I learn from the last 26 days? Are there days where we were overstaffed or understaffed? Were all the tasks completed on these days? Was everything cleaned so that there was enough clean plates and glasses and cutlery for the various departments? Did it impact the guest experience? Did we get some feedback from the waitrons or the stewarding staff? It's too late to adjust this now. However, is there anything I can do to improve on the results month to date? Perhaps re-looking at the schedules to ensure I have enough staff on duty versus the forecasted activity levels in the various outlets that are open. We actually decided after last month's closing to redo the schedule so that I have the stewarding department at work when it's crunch time, meaning we have so little departments open that we would only focus on the meal periods as well as when I have periodic cleaning scheduled. That should have ensured that I had enough labor hours when it was needed. And I must say, in hindsight, looking at what was for the last few weeks, I really should have done a better job at following up. Moving on to the future, this I can do something about today. The blue bars represent what is in the actual schedule. So how aligned are the hours with the smart forecast? Are there differences? Are there days that I am understaffed or overstaffed compared to the expected activity level from the outlets that are open? Could I move around these hours a bit so that I have the correct staffing levels when needed? A couple of minor tweaks here and there should be enough to get a better result, at least, to the end of the month. Best practice recommends looking 7 to 10 days ahead, and that would take me to the end of the month and the first week of October. Moving down further on the left here, you can follow the accumulated hours month to date or include the hours scheduled by month end. Choosing your local currency allows you to follow the accumulated labor cost per hour, which is calculated based on your reported total labor cost. Two more view options here. Total productivity, this includes productive and non-productive hours. Your non-productive hours are hours that are paid for by the property, but it was not part of your regular workday. So it could include PMI training, short and long-term sick leave, mandatory fire drill and evacuation training, and so on. The other, operational productivity, is the productive worked hours. On the right-hand side of the screen, you have the data table with all the relevant information for the month you are focusing on. Here you have the month-end forecasted hours. These are the hours you need to serve the forecasted cost driver. And the cost driver here is total food and beverage revenue. So how to calculate the productivity target? You use the cost driver, which is total food and beverage revenue, and divide it by the hours forecasted for the month. And there you have your productivity target. This is revenue produced per labor hour. And to calculate the SMART forecast, which is the yellow line on the graph, this would be your daily cost driver divided by revenue produced per labor hour. If we look at the figures, we see that our live forecast is just over 324 hours. We have used month to date 343 hours already. And if we continue in this way, this is what we will end up using at the end of the month. So with a couple of changes I plan on doing for the next few days, I should be able to align the hours better. However, it will not be a favorable result this month. All these figures are updated daily from your property management system, PMS, to ensure you can make good decisions at any time. You can manually input hours here. If, for example, the hours have not been scheduled in your timekeeping system, or you've forgotten because someone is sick and you needed another person to work. However, changes you make manually here will not be reflected in your TKS. Also, all the hours from the schedule module will appear here. Use the note function as often as needed. This is a great way to keep track of unforeseen hours used on a specific day. It could be anything from staff on training or even sick leave. In this specific example, we had the flight cancellation, so we had 40 persons for buffet dinner, as well as the baby christening. As soon as the comment is saved here, it will automatically appear on the management perspective for the general manager to see. It's always useful to understand how we ended up with the result. A little bit more on the data table here. The red horizontal line, everything above is the historic days, your past days, and then everything below is all future days. The highlighted one over here is today's date, so that's always in a darker font. Here above, you see the timekeeping system here is called time plan, and here you can see that these hours have been approved in the system. And then looking for today and then tomorrow for the next 2 days, then you see that it's in the color red, and this is because it is future hours that has not yet been updated in the system. And another example, just to show you very quickly, this is a cockpit that has not been saved from yesterday. And as you can see here, the time plan hours, the timekeeping system is in red, so hasn't been saved yet in the system. You are also able to click on any past day on your TKS system, and here you get an overview of all the hours used and exactly what it was. Further down on the data table is your month-to-date figures. Here you see how you are doing so far this month compared to the forecast, and month-end to see what you will end up with if you want to continue in this manner. This gives you a quick glimpse into any major changes that may be needed for the rest of the month. Here you also have the current average rate per hour, including social cost. Be sure to check that this is correct as it affects the labor costs. Depending on user rights, this may be only visible for you as the cockpit owner. And here, the scheduled hours. This shows the hours added in your PMI schedule. Unspecified means that it's imported from the timekeeping system or only scheduled as lump sums, and that means without a name. And one last comment on the graphs. Here's an example of shifts that are missing for the day. Let's do a quick recap of the daily routines in the cockpit. Labor cockpits should be saved at least 5 times a week by the cockpit owner. Update your timekeeping system before working in the cockpit. Look at the current month. Check the hours for yesterday and do adjustments if needed by clicking on the plus sign. If you don't yet have a TKS system installed, you will need to add the actual hours manually. Click on the plus sign for that specific day and enter the hours. Then you need to confirm to update the cockpit. Check yesterday's hours and add your comments. Check the status of your actual productivity and hours month to date and status for the rest of the month. Confirm that if you are behind your month-end target, you will look into the live forecast and schedule and try to align the staffing according to the activity level, meaning the hours used should match the revenue. Moving on to month-end routines, this can be done on the first working day of the new calendar month. Look at the month that passed. Are all the hours complete? Did we reach the productivity target that was set for the month? Summarize the month by adding a general comment. You can write the comment on the last day of the month. Here can be what went well and what the learnings were. Update the current rate here with the actual outcome after the P&L is ready at month-end closing. This task could be on the financial controller's checklist, so be sure to check what your property's routines are. And as always, don't forget to save. More information on the Labor Cockpit can be found in our knowledge base article and video tutorial series. Thank you and take care.